Hello, my name is Mike Holmberg, and I am the Associate Brand Manager for Agnition. Today, we're going to be talking about our new Procure for Corn product. Procure helps you get the power of the sun on your side. It helps you turn a good crop into a great crop by collecting extra energy from the sun. This means more oxygen, more CO2 intake, more energy, and ultimately higher yields. Next, we're going to talk about how you can put the power of Procure to work for your corn. Why is it important to talk about getting the sun on your side? And it really starts with the efficiency of photosynthesis in corn. If we look at corn, it's a C4 plant, which is only part of about 5% of plants on Earth. And C4 plants use an advanced photosynthesis process that helps to reduce waste through an extra step. And that extra step uses the carbonic anhydrase enzyme, or the CA enzyme, to actually capture CO2 to allow corn to complete photosynthesis. If we look at most plants on Earth, or 95% of plants, they're going to start with either CO2 or oxygen from the air. The goal is to start with CO2, but sometimes oxygen gets taken up instead. And you can see that oxygen also is the end product of the photosynthesis process. So we're trying to make oxygen. So if we start by taking in oxygen, it actually causes photosynthesis to stop. And that wastes about 36% of the energy because the plant has to start over by kicking oxygen out and trying to take in CO2. Corn helps to overcome that wasted energy by adding an extra step. So corn, rather than just pulling from the air, pulling CO2 or oxygen from the air, uses an enzyme called the CA enzyme to actually capture CO2 so that it doesn't waste energy by taking oxygen and it only takes in CO2. And that allows photosynthesis to proceed on and give you the end products of oxygen and energy that leads to plant growth and overall plant health. However, without the CA enzyme, photosynthesis in corn does not happen. And so it's really important to have this CA enzyme. In fact, if you look at a ratio, most plants use the CA enzyme 1 out of every 10,000 reactions. Corn, on the other hand, uses the CA enzyme 10,000 out of 10,000 reactions. So it almost cannot produce oxygen or do photosynthesis without the CA enzyme. It needs that to capture the CO2 to kickstart the process. So next, we're going to look at how Procure can help to enhance photosynthesis. Procure for corn unlocks the carbonic anhydrase enzyme using our patented microbial catalyst technology, which is delivering a form of nutrients that's 100% available to this biological system. And this enables it to unlock the CA enzyme and really drive the photosynthesis process. So we showed you on the last screen here where photosynthesis is creating oxygen and energy. And here you can see the CA enzyme really enabling CO2 to be brought in along with water and allowing photosynthesis to happen, creating glucose and oxygen and ultimately powering the plant. So Procure for Corn works to unlock enzymes that are critical for the photosynthesis process, and this turbocharges corn's ability to capture extra energy from the sun, making plants more efficient. This allows plants to take in more CO2 and release more oxygen, essentially breathing better. And that leads to more available energy, which is driving increased nutrient uptake as well as increased growth. And at the end of the season, we see greener, healthier plants that are able to capture more energy from the sun for higher yield potential. The advantages of Procure for Corn. We're using this patented chemistry to unlock enzymes that allow corn to have enhanced photosynthesis, increased energy production, leading to greener, healthier plants that are taking in more CO2. And ultimately, those plants are going to have larger root mass, larger biomass, and that all leads to increased or improved yield potential. And the simple message, Procure for Corn is like adding solar panels to your corn. We're just capturing more energy and pumping it into your corn to allow for a better growing season. If we look at a few field results from across the US this year, this was an in-furrow trial out of Kansas, and we saw increased emergence early on, as well as larger biomass and larger root mass, and that advantage is going to continue throughout the growing season. Up to Nebraska, we see again a larger biomass and larger root mass increase, even a little bit later in the growing season. And if you look at these plants over here, there's just more biomass, more plant area to capture energy from the sun. Down in Kansas, we have a pretty similar plant response, even though we're in sandier soils and a little bit different climate. We see the larger root mass as well as just a larger solar panel here to capture the sun's energy. You see wider, darker leaves, as well as taller plants that just have more biomass. And that increased energy leads to a larger root mass that's going to be better at taking up nutrients and water. In Michigan, even in the kind of overcast season, you see an increase in biomass, just again, more surface area for the plant to capture energy, as well as a root mass increase. If we go to Lucan, in this case, in southwest Minnesota, we see a pretty similar plant biomass. However, there's a dramatic increase in the root mass and specifically the fine root hairs. This product was applied in furrow, and we still see that visual response several months later. Back down to Kansas, the increase in biomass and root mass ultimately leads to more consistent ears, and in this case, a more consistent second ear, and that's going to lead to higher yield potential. In Janesville, Minnesota, we again see the increase in root mass as well as a more consistent ear. In this case, all of the treated actually have a second ear already, where the checks are all without that. A little bit unique situation from Farm Progress show in Illinois this year. Plants were dug on Monday afternoon, and this picture was taken on Thursday. So we had about 3 days sitting out of the dirt, out of the soil, and you can see that this is really a simulated drought stress. So plants were treated the same. However, you can see the treated are still green and pliable, where the check are really withered and somewhat tattered. This was actually slammed in the tailgate, so you can see that ear fell off, broke off a little bit, but all of the check ears are drooped down and almost falling off, where the two treated ears that weren't in the tailgate are still holding on strong. This was actually a V7 application, and it resulted in a 5.5 bushel per acre increase. In Gettysburg, we see this trial resulted in more consistent grain fill. So to summarize the 2019 season, we started out with a wet year that led to late planting and went into wet, warm soil. And so on 14 trials, we saw a 1.2% increase in stand count, even in the conditions we planted into in 2019. And that 1.2% is across 100% of the trials we checked, not just the positive benefits. And if we look down to root mass, on the second visit, we observed an increase in root mass 100% of the time, again, across 14 trials. We got back 8 yield results from those 14 trials, so just over half, and the yield response was about 4.05 bushels per acre increased across those trials. We also did a third-party research trial that showed an 11.1 bushel per acre increase. The third-party trial was conducted by Continuum Ag based out of Ainsworth, Iowa. They had 5 replicated strips all applied in furrow. And again, that was an 11.7 bushel bump on 253 bushel corn. So the impact of that was a $35.43 per acre profit advantage on that trial. To learn more about Procure for Corn and how it can help you get the power of the sun on your side to help you maximize your corn crop, please visit our website, agnition.com, or call the number on the screen to get in contact with us. On behalf of myself and the Agnition team, I'd like to thank you for taking time to learn about Procure for Corn. Have a great day.